Hello and welcome. It's 10 a.m. on Tuesday, the 23rd of December. You're tuned in to our mid-morning newscast here on Arirang TV. Thanks for joining us on this rather gloomy day here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broome. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. The UN Security Council has, for the first time, adopted North Korea's human rights record as an official agenda item. The Council suggests Pyongyang be referred to the International Criminal Court for its alleged crimes against humanity. Analysts say online access is totally down in North Korea as the nation experiences serious internet problems. The White House has declined to comment on the problems. Plus, Korea's finance minister calls for labour market reform to reduce the nation's relatively high youth unemployment rate. But we start with the UN's historic and highly symbolic move. For the first time ever, the UN Security Council has put North Korea's abysmal human rights record up as a matter for official discussion at the highest level of the world body. Connie Lee starts us off.
It's official. North Korea's human rights issues are now part of the UN Security Council's agenda. Members of the Council voted on Monday to formally take up the issue of Pyongyang's alleged human rights abuses. This despite objections from China and Russia. However, there are no vetoes in procedural votes like this one, where an agenda is being set, so the other members were able to override the objections. This is the first time that the top UN body has taken up North Korea's human rights issues. Previously, discussions on Pyongyang were solely centered on the North's nuclear weapons program, but now all aspects of the country will be monitored and discussed. The latest ruling could also serve as a prelude to punitive measures against Pyongyang in the future, as it comes a matter of days after the UN General Assembly voted in favor of referring North Korea to the International Criminal Court for alleged crimes against humanity. North Korea, which has refused to cooperate at every step, quickly denounced the decision. Monday's report follows a stinging UN report released in February that said North Koreans face unspeakable atrocities. These include forced labor in the country's prison camps, deliberate starvation, executions, and torture. This latest move ramps up international pressure on Pyongyang to finally treat its own people better. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
Now to some news that started filtering through this morning, namely that North Korea has been experiencing some widespread internet outages. No word yet as to whether the connectivity problems are US payback for a major hacking attack at Sony Pictures that the FBI last week blamed on Pyongyang. But one expert in the US says North Korea's online access has degraded sharply over the last 24 hours and is now totally down. But nothing is confirmed as yet, no official response from North Korea. US President Barack Obama last week said the US would respond to the Sony hack attack in a proportional way, but he didn't say how, and the White House has yet to comment on this as well. The State Department said earlier that some US responses to the Sony hack would be seen and some wouldn't. Russia's celebration of its 70th anniversary since its victory over Nazi Germany in World War II could end up having quite the mix of VIP guests. A Kremlin official has confirmed that US President Barack Obama and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un have been invited to the May 9th event. A diplomatic source in Beijing said on Monday that Kim is actually likely to accept Russia's invitation. No word yet on whether Obama will go. Officials say countries that took part in the fight against the Nazis are all invited. The invitation to Obama comes amid, obviously, very tense relations between Russia and the US and the West in general after Moscow's annexation of Crimea and its actions in Ukraine. If Obama were to accept Russia's invite, most eyes would be focused on a potential meeting between the US leader and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Now, turning back to the threat of cyber terror, but this time here in South Korea, and authorities say that despite the recent online leak of information regarding the country's nuclear reactors, there is no threat to the public's safety. But the hacker involved in all of this says he's not done yet. Connie Kim reports.
A 2-day-long cybersecurity drill has begun at all of Korea's nuclear facilities in light of the recent leak of sensitive information. The Energy Ministry will work with various agencies, such as the Nuclear Safety and Security Commission, to make sure all are safe from any potential cyber attacks. Over the 2-day period, the ministry will make sure that power plants are not susceptible to future hack attacks, but experts say not enough is being done.
It is going to take time and money, but the nuclear reactor's operating system should be established again from scratch. Updates aren't a long-term solution. Hackers could still shut down power at the reactor from outside.
The unidentified hacker leaked more information about the facilities over the weekend and threatened more leaks if the government does not shut down some of its reactors by Christmas Day. The freshly leaked data includes floor maps, operation manuals, and safety reports from the state-run Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power Company, and information on the Kori 2 and Walsang 1 reactors. While authorities say the information released until now poses no threat, the hackers are threatening to release tens of thousands of pages of new data, including blueprints and other classified information. The investigation team says that the attack was well planned. They say the registration information the hacker used to set up a blog detailing the attack was stolen, and that the Twitter ID he or she used was registered in the U.S. Korean investigators have requested assistance from the FBI in the probe. They haven't ruled out North Korea's involvement, with some of the malware code discovered similar to that in previous North Korean attacks. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now staying here in South Korea, and after the Constitutional Court made a historic ruling last week to disband a left-wing political party, the UPP, the election watchdog on Monday delivered a follow-up ruling on the fate of the party's councillors, and they vowed that they will not go down without a fight. Our Ji Myung-gil reports.
The National Election Commission decided on Monday to strip 6 members of the now disbanded Unified Progressive Party from their seats in provincial legislatures. The election watchdog said there was no reason for the councillors to maintain their posts.
The National Election Commission has decided to reclassify the 6 councillors as having resigned under election law since the party itself was dissolved for violating the Constitution.
The 6 who were appointed under the proportional representation system called the decision invalid because election law dictates that seats may be taken away only when members break away from the party. They plan to file an injunction. Last Friday, the Constitutional Court ordered the dissolution of the UPP, which resulted in 5 of its lawmakers losing their seats in the National Assembly. Political watchers had also expected that the party's 6 members in post at the provincial level would also lose their seats. All 5 of the UPP's sitting lawmakers who were kicked out of the National Assembly say they will file a lawsuit against the state. They claim the Constitutional Court does not have the right to remove them from the legislature, as there's no law that stipulates the status of lawmakers in the case their party is dissolved. However, the court said there was no reason for the lawmakers to pursue their parliamentary seats when their party had been dissolved, a decision they should responsibly accept. Last Friday's ruling comes more than 400 days after the Justice Ministry filed a petition against the UPP following the arrest of a number of its members on rebellion and conspiracy charges. Several UPP members, including former lawmaker Lee Seok-gi, were convicted of plotting to overthrow the government in the event of war with North Korea. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
That a team of South Korea.
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. Arirang News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers 15 billion. Now, Korea's finance chief has been touting the need to overhaul the labour market in an attempt to reduce the relatively high youth unemployment rate we are feeling here in Korea. Speaking about next year's economic policy directions to major news stations on Monday, Choi Kyung-hwan emphasised the need to reduce economic polarisation, to create more jobs, especially for young people in Korea. He recognized the difficulties of carrying out structural reform, but said it was necessary, especially as big corporations are hiring fewer full-time employees amid the economic uncertainties at home and abroad. Now, according to data from Statistics Korea, the jobless rate for the 15 to 29 age group was 7.5% in November, and that is much higher than the overall unemployment rate. The finance minister also stated that the government will work to expand the social security net. Now, Korea has more than a dozen bilateral free trade pacts secured with various nations around the world, but the Trade Ministry is looking to lock in even more deals in the coming year, in 2015, including a number of these so-called mega FTAs. Our Song Ji-sun reports.
2014 could be remembered as the year of free trade deals for South Korea. Over the past 12 months, Seoul has concluded negotiations with China, Canada, New Zealand, and Vietnam, with an FTA with Australia taking effect. Add all of them up, and Korea has 15 FTA agreements with a total of 52 nations that account for 73% of the global economy. For 2014, Seoul's focus was on wrapping up bilateral free trade deals. For the coming year, it's on sealing multilateral and regional pacts. According to officials at Trade Ministry, Korea's goal is to ink a trilateral deal with China and Japan before the end of 2015. The government says it will approach the trilateral pact, now entering a third year of negotiations, looking for a term similar to those contained in the Korea-China FTA. Seoul also hopes agreements can be reached for the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which involves the 10 ASEAN member countries, along with India, Australia, and New Zealand, Korea, China, and Japan. As for the Trans-Pacific Partnership led by the U.S., Seoul signaled an interest in joining negotiations last year. The government says it will look into the possibility of doing that as soon as possible after the deal is signed. The government sees this aggressive push for free trade deals as a means for fostering future growth through exports, which is at the heart of the government's 3-year economic reform plan. In a meeting with businessmen last week, President Park Geun-hye ordered a new focus on signing additional FTAs with emerging economies as well. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Now, Samsung Group's heir apparent Lee Jae-yong has leapfrogged a couple of other Korean tycoons to become Korea's second wealthiest person after his father and current Samsung Group chairman Lee Gun-hee. According to Bloomberg's billionaire list on Tuesday, the junior Lee, who you can see there, has an estimated net worth at $7.2 billion to rank 183rd in the world as 183rd richest in the world, following 2 IPOs of Samsung companies, the IT services affiliate Samsung SDS and de facto holding company Jaeil Industries. The vice chairman of Samsung Electronics is also the biggest shareholder of Jaeil Industries that went public last Thursday. Now, the only other Korean with a bigger fortune than Lee is his father, Lee Gun-hee, as we mentioned. He's been in hospital since suffering a massive heart attack in May. He's actually the 77th richest man in the world with a net worth of $13.1 billion. Bill Gates is the world's richest man, according to Bloomberg, with a total net worth of $87.2 billion. Smartphone platform services continue to evolve as they penetrate further and further into all of our daily lives. And a bright future lies ahead of the market as Korea and many other Asian countries edge ever closer to a truly mobile-only era. Kwon So-ah reports.
Information and communications technology is increasingly a part of our daily lives. And with the mobile sector now blazing forward to lead a platform revolution, it's expected that in 2015, more Koreans will take advantage of the growing number of services available to them anytime, anywhere, through their smartphones. For example, when they're on the road. Just last week, Korea's #1 mobile messenger, Daum Kakao, signed a deal with Seoul's Taxi Association and Transportation Card Service to launch a taxi hailing application next year. Shopping and food delivery via smartphone is also on the rise, making it more and more convenient to order on the go. And banking apps are also expected to gain popularity, like Tom Kakao's bank wallet Kakao, which is already being supported by 16 major banks, with more than 500,000 people subscribed to it in just the third week of its launch. Interest in these mobile platforms comes naturally, as Korea's smartphone penetration is among the highest in the world. But it's also a global trend, with more surfing the internet through mobile devices compared to PCs. Speaking at Google's Mobile First World event last month, Executive Chairman Eric Schmidt said the world is changing from a web-first world to a mobile-first world, with Asia leading the market for many years to come. And the next transition forecast for the region is going mobile only. Korea's ICT ministry reported that the number of households owning smartphones this year stood at 84%, outnumbering those owning computers for the first time. That's why industry watchers expect fierce competition among smartphone platform developers and, in turn, increased use and dependency of mobile apps in our everyday life. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Time now for a look through the global headlines we're following this Tuesday morning from Seoul. For that, we turn to Son Jung-in, standing by at the news centre. Good morning, Jung-in.
Good morning.
So, we hear that Chinese President Xi Jinping is continuing with his campaign to root out corruption in the country, trying to at least. This time, he is focusing hard on a senior aide to the former President Hu Jintao.
That's right, Mark. The ruling Communist Party's anti-corruption watchdog has launched a probe into Ling Jihua for, quote, unspecified disciplinary violations. Ling is currently the vice chairman of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference National Committee.
Jung-in, we know that China likes to use this term disciplinary violations as another way of saying corruption, but what exactly is he accused of?
Well, no further details have been released, but the move is very similar to previous moves Xi Jinping has taken to crack down on corruption. Ling, who was virtually the chief of staff of the former president, retired last year after a 10-year-long stint in power. He came into spotlight more than 2 years ago when he tried to cover up a scandal involving his son, who died in a speed car accident while driving his Ferrari. And speculation about his fate ran high after the announcement of a probe into his two brothers back in June. The country has intensified its campaign to tackle official corruption since Xi took office, with several senior government figures and state company executives in detention.
Yes, the crackdown really is intensifying over there in China. Now heading over to the US, where the country is dealing with ongoing protests over race issues and police behavior. We had the awful incident of the two police officers who were gunned down in cold blood over the weekend. So tensions are very high at the moment. But New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio is trying to calm things down.
That's right. During a press conference, Blasio commented on the murders of two New York police officers over the weekend by an African-American man, apparently motivated by the deaths of two black men at the hands of white police officers in New York City and Ferguson.
We have to understand the attack on them was an attack on all of us. It was an attack on our democracy. It was an attack on our values. It was an attack on every single New Yorker. And we have to see it as such.
Blasio, who is under intense criticism for his poor handling of the situation, called for a suspension of protests that have gripped the nation and the city. Deputy Attorney General James Cole has also condemned the killing of two officers, saying that the fatal shootings were heinous and cowardly acts. Meanwhile, investigators are checking into whether the 28-year-old man, identified as Ismail Brinsley, attended any of the protests against the police violence. These are the international stories we're following at this hour. I'll be back with more at noon.
Okay, thank you, Son Jung-in. Thank you.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off with the Korean national football team as manager Uli Stilike announced his roster for the upcoming Asian Cup on Monday. Now, not much of a surprise if you take a look at the roster until you see Lee Jung-hyuk listed in the roster as the virtually unknown player from Sangju Sangmu, the military team, was chosen ahead of Park Ji-young, who has played in 3 World Cups. Lee, who scored in the inter-squad friendly on Sunday, has never played on the national team and was surprised himself when he was listed on the roster, as fans are calling him Stilike's Cinderella. Meanwhile, despite both Kim Sung-gyu and Chung Sung-young being listed in the goalkeeper slot, Kim is expected to be the starting goalkeeper thanks to his success in the Asian Games. And now moving over to figure skating this time, where Ice Network, a U.S.-based figure skating website, named Kim Yeon-a's short program the best short program of 2014. Now, in an article reviewing the 2014 year in figure skating, Kim Yeon-a's short program performance to Send in the Clowns was named as the best performance in a short program as they praised her movements and her acting. Meanwhile, in the same article, they listed Adelina Solnikova's gold medal win at the Sochi Winter Games the biggest upset of the year, comparing it to the 2002 Winter Games when Sarah Hughes beat out the heavily favored Michelle Kwan. And now shifting over to baseball, where the mystery to who made the highest bid on Nexen hero slugger Kang Jung-ho was finally revealed earlier this morning, as it was reported that the Pittsburgh Pirates were the highest bidders. Despite rumors of the Philadelphia Phillies being a possible team who placed the highest bid, it's been finally revealed that another national team placed a $5,002,015 bid, as the NL Central's Pittsburgh Pirates were that team. Now, with the two sides looking to sign a deal, Kang Jung-ho might get his chance to play shortstop, as Jordy Mercer is the current shortstop in the team's depth chart at the moment. And now finishing things off with staying in baseball, spring training is still months away in the major leagues, but Lee Hyun-jin and the LA Dodgers are the early favorites to win the 2015 World Series. Now, this, of course, according to several betting sites in the U.S., including Vegas, where the LA Dodgers were listed at 8-1 or 13-2 odds of winning next season's World Series. This comes after the Dodgers made a number of trades and signings this offseason, as the Boston Red Sox and the LA Angels were the consensus #2 favorites to win the next World Series. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shell Park here with the latest weather forecast. The weather have gotten much better than the last few days temperature-wise. Now, and today in our afternoon, we're even expecting the temperatures to finally make it into the seasonal average. And comparing with the numbers, there is about 4 degrees increase in temperatures from yesterday to today's morning lows to the highs. However, due to the windy conditions, our current sensoric temperature is cooler at about -10 degrees. Now, besides that, currently it's foggy have been layered over in the central region, which will get thicker as the day passes. So make sure to be extra careful on the roads for those of you driving. And for the rest of the nation, it's mostly going to be looking cloudy and dry as well. And to our readings for today, Seoul will peak at 5 this afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Gwangju and Busan will peak up to 7 and 9 degrees. And moving over to other regions, we see Jeju Island getting up to 11. Dokdo hits down to 8, while Mount Keungang will be dropping low at -3 degrees. Well, that's all for now. I'm Michelle Park. Now here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is going to do it from us for now. Do have a great day and thanks for watching. I've been Mark Broome and I'll be back again with Ojin Ju at noon Korea time. Until then, goodbye.